the Atheist Roundtable with your host, David Oliverio, the Preaching Humanist. That is I. And my co-host, Andrew Rogers and Eric Bunch.
Hello.
Well, before we get into the topic, let me tell you, viewers, I will talk about a particular topic on the Preaching Humanist show, and then, of course, we will discuss it on the Atheist Roundtable and get my co-host views on it. But before we get into the Atheist Accommodationism, the message I talked about a couple weeks ago, boy, yesterday we had a good time, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Let me tell the viewers about it real quick. We did some hardcore atheist activism, and we went to Georgetown, Texas. If you're not from Texas or the Austin area, that's a rural, smaller town community which is considered very conservative and lots of Christians. So I guess this was the first atheist community of Austin booth that was ever out there, and that's what we're trying to do, is get out there and put a face on atheism and talk to people. But, man, we had a great time yesterday, didn't we, guys?
Oh, absolutely. We had so many people come up to us who live in that community and say to us, I can't believe y'all are out here.
Yeah.
They were so surprised. They said, man, y'all have got some balls to be out here in this community with that sign and talking about the things y'all are talking about. Yet at the same time, so many of those same people said, come back. Mm-hmm. We're glad y'all are here.
And just so the viewers know, you guys have got some balls. That's actually a direct quote from the guy. I think, and he was one of the organizers.
Coordinators of the downtown Georgetown Alliance. Yeah, he was one of the guys. He said, man, I'm glad to see y'all out here. This is wonderful. He said he was very surprised too. And I think he's the one who said, man, y'all got some balls coming to Georgetown with this.
Yeah, well, fellow, and what happened yesterday, well, no surprise, because we've done this before out there on our own with our signs, but we had a lot of fellow atheists in that very conservative area. Yeah. And you remember how many came to us that said, thank you for being here. I never heard of your atheist community in Austin. Yeah. And that store, the business owner from that store. You remember that?
That was very brave of her to do that, for her to walk out of her, because our booth was facing her store, and for her to walk out of her store deliberately to tell us, and you had the sign up there that said, good without God, and for her to recognize that and say, hey, and she got our attention and said, yes, good without God, and gave us a thumbs up and said, great. She put her, economically, she could have put herself in a situation there because that community is so, conservative. So I think that was very brave of her. She was, that was surprising.
Should we give her business name a shout out, or would that put her potentially at risk?
I think we should let her decide on that.
We can wait maybe next month. We're going to be going every month for a while.
Right. Who knows? She could become a very, because hopefully we're going to get our same spot back. And maybe she'll come over and speak with us more. And if she wants us to, we will then.
Yeah. So our message is, and we can tie it right into the Atheist Accommodationism. There's so many secular, humanist, atheist, agnostics out there that would never, ever attempt to do what we enjoy so much. It's so fun. I like to kid around saying we're like missionaries going into uncharted area, unknown area. Some people don't like to use the word missionary, but hey, that's kind of what we are. But it's so enjoyable, and we haven't been shot yet.
No.
We got some dirty looks.
Yeah, we've gotten some dirty looks, a lot of that. But no, amazingly, none of those people stopped to say anything to us. You know?
We had a couple of Christians come up and challenge us, and the thing is, I like to think that when they walked away less angry at us than when they initiated the conversation. Yes. One lady, in fact, was like, she was very. She came at us all heated, and then when she left, she was like, "Okay, I understand. You guys have a nice day." Yeah. So that was cool. And then there was the one guy who kind of berated us a little bit, and he when he walked away, it's like we agree to disagree. It's all good. That's fine. Have a great day. And I wanted to mention a couple of people in particular that was fantastic. One, we went over to a sub shop and for lunch, Eric and myself, and the lady who made our subs, we told her what we're doing, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm with you. I'm an atheist too." And it's funny because we said, well, I think I said something about, well, wow, here in Georgetown, huh? And I made a joke about, well, I wasn't sure we should admit that we're atheists. We don't want someone spitting on our sub. And she's like, look at me. Obviously, I'm not a Christian. She had the
tattoos, and she had a
in the hair
nose ring, and she was obviously not conservative.
And my favorite was the young mom with her two boys, her two very stylishly dressed boys.
That was awesome.
Yeah, and she came. It's funny. She came up right away. She came up to us, and I think the direct quote is, "I want to join your group."
Yeah. She never heard of us before.
No.
Yeah, she saw our sign. She goes, "I want to join your group."
In fact, I don't think, maybe y'all did, but I can't remember one person. When I asked them, have you heard of the Atheist Community of Austin? I didn't have one person say yes. So we're putting that out there to people.
Very good point.
And Georgetown is not that far from here. You know what I mean? So we're getting the Atheist Community of Austin. Hopefully within this very community to be more recognized and more known, and let them know what we're about.
Of course, yeah. And so we don't just want to focus on Georgetown. We're looking for other rural communities around these festivals and all. So, yeah, it was fun. So let's tie it into the message I gave on the Preaching Humanist show on atheist accommodationism. So let's go over the points, and then we'll just talk about it. So remember I talked about what is an accommodationist. It's someone who tries to reconcile, or someone who tries to compromise with an opposition and or tries to compromise their own personal stance with another person's stance. So I know a lot of my fellow atheists that I talk to would be in that category of accommodationists. They think that they can reconcile their unbelief with a believer's belief. So let's talk about this. So there are both religious and atheist accommodationists. Would you agree to that? They're both
sure. I mean, religious meaning, I guess, the very left-leaning churches, the liberal churches, or accommodationists. I mean, they, I guess, I don't know that they're accepting of atheism, but they, I guess, they maybe have some of our beliefs as far as our more secular beliefs.
Yeah, I think it's rampant out there. I think the majority of people that I meet that would say they're secular or atheist, many of them, first thing they tell me, I had a new client not long ago, and her husband's an atheist. She's not an atheist. I don't know if I told you guys this. And she introduced me to her husband. He's a guy in his 50s. And as soon as I shook his hand, he goes, "I'm an atheist like you, but I would never try to change a Christian's mind, or I would never do what you do as an activist," because he knew about my activism. Yeah. And immediately he wanted me to know that I go to my mother's church every Sunday with her. Okay. But there's this idea out there that we shouldn't go out there and try to talk to believers and so forth. So that's what accommodationism is.
Can I jump in? Because it reminded me of something. One of the Christians who approached us in Georgetown, it said something that we often hear from Christians. He said, he made a point at least 2 times. He said, "There's nothing you guys can say that could ever change my mind."
Yeah, he did.
And I missed the opportunity because I usually like to tell them, okay, your mind is closed, but our minds are open. So why don't you change our minds? What give us your best argument? And usually, I think in the process of them trying to make their best argument to change our minds, the wheels start turning as we respond. They realize, wait, my position is a lot weaker than I thought it was.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and then we heard this, that's a good point. We heard this yesterday when we were doing our activism. Some of the believers, I didn't hear from any fellow atheists, but a couple of believers said that they believe that science and religion are reconcilable. You can be into the scientific method and religion, and I've talked about that, as you know, on my show.
I think the scientific method is what we use to prove that religion is not real. I mean, for a religious person to say that the Bible and science are reconcilable, that they're not. Show me something valid science-wise in the Bible. Is there anything? I don't think there is, right? I mean, so and I guess it always goes back to, or for me, a lot of the times is they say, well, we talk about the Big Bang Theory, and they say, well, how do you know God did not create that? I do not know that God didn't create that, but nobody is proved to me that it has. So if you can prove to me scientifically that it was, well, then I guess I will be a believer. But nobody has, and science so far is the one that has come up with the best explanation.
Oh, absolutely.
Using the scientific method. So there is, there's no way to accommodate the two, in my view. It just isn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't see it at all. I don't see the reconciliation between the two at all, because one demands evidence, right? Science believes in evidence from using the scientific method, where faith is just the absence of any kind of evidence, just belief. So, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, that's what faith is. Faith is believing without evidence.
Absolutely.
Believing because somebody else told you, believe this. So I'm telling you, believe this because I'm your dad or your mom, and this is the way I was raised, and this is the way I'm raising you. So you believe this and don't question it. That's not science. There's no way to reconcile that in a scientific way. That's ridiculous. There's no. It just doesn't. The two don't. They're opposite. The two things are opposite
and contradictory.
Yeah, they're contradictory. Exactly.
A lot.
You don't find truth by refusing to test your claim. You find truth by making sure to test every claim and subject it to as much skepticism as you can. And if it can withstand that skepticism, then, okay, maybe you have a valid claim, you know. And faith says absolutely the opposite. Don't do that.
Exactly.
Well, let's get to atheist accommodationism. Here's the thing that kind of blows my mind.
Me too.
Yeah, it does. It's like within the atheist community, there are, like I said before, tons of people that do not think it's proper or our place to challenge believers and so forth. And it's really mind-boggling, and they do try to reconcile atheism and Christianity in some ways. So I would say tolerance, and then as I said in my message on this topic, you know, what you tolerate is what you encourage. Now, I'm all about, and you guys are too, I'm sure, we tolerate people's differences as far as their ethnicity, their personality, and different things. Of course, it's about being a good, kind person. But these belief systems that are so detrimental to humanity, I don't have any tolerance for those.
Well, there's a difference between tolerance of other people's cultures, other people's, beliefs within, those cultures, than the tolerance of, an atheist versus tolerating religious beliefs, because there's so many of those beliefs that are bad for humanity in general. So if you say, oh, well, we can live and work together, well, not really, because if you're an atheist, the things that the Bible says, the misogyny that goes on, the racism that goes on, the the holding down of different cultures and people, how can you accept that? How does that fall in line with your belief? Because that's all being taught from a position of this God, this higher power, who says that we must and need to do these things, and so you're going to, if you're an atheist, you need to say, no, those things are incorrect, and we need to reject that. There's not helpful to say, let them, well, okay, we can work with them in those, even with those type of beliefs. I cannot.
It's kind of like saying, okay, let me accommodate and tolerate somebody who says I am evil and terrible and I shouldn't be tolerated or accepted. Let me accept and tolerate them. You wouldn't do that. It's kind of like, okay, yeah, if they didn't have all of these abhorrent, closed-minded, exclusionary kind of doctrines and commandments and things like that in their belief system, then okay, I could kind of see the point. Like if you're an atheist and you want to say, okay, well, it's okay if people are religious, let people be religious. Hey, that's fine, I guess, if the religion is something that's much more benign. Like I hear, for example, that Jainism is a pretty relaxed, mellow religion. I hear the Buddhists are pretty mellow and accepting. And the Sikhs are.
Are you kidding me? Have you seen some of the Buddhists?
I know. I've heard about some of the conflict.
Oh my God! They kill each other over.
I guess what I mean is the doctrine itself. I'm referring to the actual Buddhist literature or doctrine, not necessarily what particular Buddhist people will do. Yeah. So if the actual religion itself, if it's holy scriptures or its divine book or whatever, it doesn't include a bunch of horrible, hateful crap, then okay, yeah, we'll accommodate them, fine. But Christianity and Islam, they don't fit that definition.
Not at all. Not if they read the Bible and the Quran literally and take that literally. I mean, it is very clear it is not good.
But even I think with whatever, religion that might be out there that is touchy-feely, soft, and whatever you want to say.
It's still silly, of course.
It's still silly, and it still is going to, I think hold back humanity as a whole because, those types of thoughts already have, those types of beliefs already have.
Oh, yeah.
It's held back science. I mean, how much further ahead would our scientific, community be if they had not been, held back by religion, of whatever type of religion. So I don't even think even the soft, touchy-feely ones, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that those people shouldn't be allowed to have those beliefs. Absolutely.
Right.
If that's what they want, they should be able to have those beliefs.
But it shouldn't be encouraged.
It shouldn't be encouraged to be included within our worldview because, it's silly. It's just so silly, it's wish thinking and it's, and there's no place for that in a society or in a world that wants to progress and wants to, become better.
It's the year 2018. We have science, we have modern technology, and it's still hard for me to believe that so many people want to grasp and hold on to any of these supernatural beliefs.
Just a very simple example, you take stem cell research. George Bush, he tried to limit that. And why? Religious beliefs.
Of course.
Absolutely.
He didn't dangerous beliefs.
Right. He didn't try to limit that for any sort of scientific reason. It was all about the Christian right and their belief that, that those stem cells are a life and that you're destroying a life by using those stem cells. And so how much further ahead would that science be?
Absolutely. Yeah. And where do they get the idea? From their book, the Bible.
Right.
Right.
And the thing is, they can twist their book. Look how many different versions of Christianity there are. They can twist those beliefs and that those things that were written inside that book for their own ends so much of the time. You can't so much do that with science.
Right.
You know what I mean? Science is, of course, you have theories and sometimes you have competing theories, but still those people are trying to work towards finding the truth of that. You don't get that within a religion. You have people who believe, just like that guy from yesterday, you're not going to change my mind. Nothing you say can change my mind. It's useless. He doesn't want to hear anything outside of what his very small world is. He doesn't want to hear it. And I know that he didn't want us out there saying it either. That was clear.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that for sure. So I see bumper stickers on vehicles throughout the city quite often. And they have these coexist stickers, and they have these. Yeah, I saw Andrew face palming over there. Oh, these bumper stickers that have symbols of these different religions, and how they have the sign of Islam, and of course the Jesus cross, which we have to put up with all over the place. A little sign of the fish with that cross in the middle, and so forth. So implying that we need to brace each other's beliefs and just coexist. And of course, I'm all about coexisting with people of differences, but when it comes to, as we talk about dangerous beliefs and how they are detrimental to societal health, no way in hell do I compromise with these belief systems. So I personally would never put a sign like that on my vehicle.
You know what? I guess it would all be nice and beautiful and everything if all of those religions could coexist, but they can't even coexist with each other. That's again, I guess that's somebody hoping for the best possible outcome that could ever happen. All these religions coexist with each other. Well, you look at Islam and its teachings, and is that it's kill the infidel. And there's no room within Islam for Christianity. There's no room in Christianity for Islam. They'll never coexist.
No.
They never will. And, okay, and I understand what that person wants. That person wants and hopes that that would be a world that could exist, but it's not. It's not. Thousands of years have proven that out. It's not, and what makes them think that, that something's going to change that? The only thing that's going to change that is people moving away from that, wishful thinking,
primitive, archaic, magical thinking instead of using this, the human, educated, enlightened mind.
I'm going to use a cheap and easy example, but it's got to be said. I'm going to use the obvious. When I see those silly coexist signs, I know the person's heart is in the right place. I get it, but when you have the Jesus cross and the Muslim symbol and stuff like that on there, it's literally, you might as well have like a Nazi swastika on there and you might think, oh, don't say that. That's
too extreme.
That's too extreme. Well, actually, no, it's not. If you read the Bible and the Quran, they endorse and even command the kind of things that would make Hitler blush. I mean,
Absolutely.
It's just as bad. And no, Jesus didn't change it, and it's the Old Testament's still in there, and it's still the same God if you believe the Bible is Holy Scripture. So the atrocities that are endorsed and commanded in there are just as evil as anything the Nazis did. And so it's kind of like, okay, would you put a Nazi swastika on your coexist sign? No, you wouldn't. Well, then the Christian and Muslim symbols shouldn't be on there either.
Exactly.
Well, I can play devil's advocate because you and I, Andrew, went into that progressive liberal church. Remember last Sunday to the Sunday school class? We had a great time, great questions for these people, but they're major accommodationalists, right? And they're trying to accommodate both and so forth. But our liberal Christian progressive friends are not taking the Bible literally, right? It's all about metaphors and analogies, and and they look at the Old Testament scriptures, and you can see them try to rationalize their wanting to believe in this God so bad, and it's just so unbelievable that so many people still want to hold on to these concepts. So here's what I see. I see in a lot of my atheist accommodationist friends, those that want to try to reconcile the two, kind of reminds me of when we all had kids. We have older children, and when they were younger, if you tell them something, they always stick the old fingers in the ear and they go la la la, and they don't want to listen to what's going on out there. So I just think we need to get out there and talk to people more about this stuff instead of being in our little isolated or insulated secular bubbles, right? And ignoring what's going on out there in the religious world.
Well, I heard Bill Maher say something on his show one show, and he said what he said was essentially the wonderful thing about being an atheist is you don't have to do nothing. You just don't have to do nothing. You don't have to get up and go to church in the morning. You don't have to do any of those things. And I understand that that thought. Man, it's how nice, to go from being the type of Christian who you got to go to church on Sunday and then you got to go to Bible or, church study on Wednesday and you got to do all these things and it takes up so much part of your life. And I understand that, that thought, I guess. But I mean, I think that as an atheist, and you don't believe any of those things, you've also got to recognize how much all of those things pervade our society in ways that, within our government, within our education system, within all those things. And by, just saying, well, we're just going to accommodate all that and we're going to, not, speak back, and we're not going to put our, self out there, then you're allowing that stuff to happen more and more and more. And we can't allow that to happen. And for me, especially, that's one of my main passions is let's keep that ridiculous stuff out of our government. You can have it. Please have it. I want you to have it if you want it, but I don't want it, and I'm an American, and I don't want it in my government.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I just did, as you heard, an episode on that theocratic type dominionism trying to infiltrate our government, which is already there. We got to stand up against that.
That scares me.
The educational system. How they're trying to push their myth of creationism and all into our public schools, and man, they're not going to stop.
And to add injury to insult, I know I'm reversing that. To add injury to insult, they want us to pay for it with our tax, with our tax dollars.
Yeah, I think Florida is the state that has just mandated that "In God We Trust" is going to be in every classroom. I might be wrong about the state. Hopefully, I didn't say that wrong state. And it's passed. It passed there. It's going to happen. They're going to have it in there. You know what I mean? And I understand. Okay, it's on our. I guess apparently the Supreme Court said it's okay. It's on our money, and they let it be on our money and all that. But that's what I'm talking about. I mean, how much further does it go?
See, we can't make changes by just sitting in our little insulated secular bubbles and be an accommodationist type atheist.
Amen, brother.
I mean, you got to get out there and fight against this stuff because these people, they're not ashamed of their Christianity. No. They wear their Jesus crosses. They talk about Jesus wherever they go. And so many atheists are just, they're ashamed of saying the word atheist. They're afraid of being too much like a Christian, right? If they go out.
I see that all the time and within my job. I'm a nurse and have patients or patients' family members all the time. I mean, literally, if it doesn't happen twice or 3 times a week and something's wrong, asking me, are you a Christian? Do you pray? Pray with us? All those things. And as far as, I don't never become overt about my atheism because that's not what I'm there for. I'm there to take care of people, so I don't do that. But I extricate myself from that completely. I don't go along with it. I don't act like I approve of it, but I also, obviously, like I said, I'm there to give health care. I'm not there to debate their beliefs. But I also don't, if they ask me, say, will you pray with me? And I will say, maybe, there's somebody better who we can find.
You've had people ask you that?
Oh, many times.
For you as a nurse
to pray with them. Yeah.
But they're there with professional medical human beings.
Yeah.
Why are they there? Why doesn't their God just heal them?
The amount of times I've heard, praise God, when somebody becomes better from the medicine, the medicine.
So he gets the credit.
But he gets the credit.
And you medical professionals.
Yeah. But I will say, and because I don't feel like this is me, trying to speak, about my belief in atheism, but I will say, well, how about we'll thank the surgeon?
Yeah.
I will say that.
Very good.
Nice.
You might want to thank that doctor who figured out that medicine you were taking was not the correct medicine.
No.
Just those little, inserting that little thing here and there.
Because to me, that's
way.
actually promoting medicine. That's promoting medicine. I'm saying, look, this is science. This guy was trained for years and years and years, and he helped you. So let's thank that. Let's thank that man. Let's thank that woman. Let's thank that science and that teaching, instead of this invisible guy who, and also, I'd never say this, but I also want to say, well, are you thanking him for making you sick in the first place then?
Yeah.
Because if he can make you well, he could have made, if he can make you well from being sick, he could have prevented you from getting sick in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely drives me crazy.
Before you move on, I was going to, also say that another thing closet atheists or accommodationist atheists will tell you is, well, I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to offend them. Hey, guess what? They don't care if they offend you.
Absolutely.
They're more than happy to offend you and put it in your face.
Yeah. And more than happy to try to restrict you being able to say your piece and keep us from being able to get out there and tell people the things that we want to let people know. Perfect example, again, going back to yesterday when we were out there and we had the Roman Catholic girl who identified herself as a Roman Catholic, and we were speaking with her, and then we had the other young lady come up, and she walked right up, is the one that you were speaking of earlier, and she walked right up and said, hey, I want to have your information. Give me some of your information. I want to join. And that Roman Catholic girl overheard her and said, oh, no, don't take none of that. Don't take none of that literature. Don't do that. And boy, that girl got upset. She said, do not tell me what to believe. Do not try to prevent me from learning about this. So why would you do that? Why would you come out and try to prevent somebody else from, learning something new or having a belief? That was...
Well, she got fired up.
She was fired
you
up.
Got it on, did you get it on video?
I got it on video.
I'll have to post that.
Yeah.
We'll get Mark to put it on the show here. That was
we'll see if Vern can work his magic on the audio because the wind was blowing really hard, so it was kind of hard to hear.
It was hard to hear, but I thought that was perfectly appropriate. I thought that was great. This is a perfect example, of what Christians and religion in general does, or tries to do.
And that reminded me of another great example from yesterday when you said that she was Roman Catholic. We were talking about this morning. There was another woman who talked to us, said, I'm a Roman Catholic. And what blew our minds is that as we're talking to her a little bit later on, she says, oh, I don't believe in any God.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because how did that come about? Anyway, yeah, you're right, though. She did.
But I'm Roman Catholic.
I thought she was going to be in opposition to us because of some of the things she was saying and everything. And I think one of us said, well, we don't want to take away your belief in God. And she was like, oh, no, I don't believe in God. And I'm like, well, and then she did. She elaborated. She said, well, I was brought up that way. All my family's that way. My family, I have to be that way because my family's that way. She said that, So
how can we as atheist activists who believe and know, because we have evidence, that more secular societies are healthier, that's why we do this. How can we motivate and encourage the closeted accommodationist type atheists? I mean, what would you say to one when they would say, no, it's not my right to get out there and come out of the closet? Or when someone says, I'm praying for you, to say, well, you know what, keep praying to those air molecules and say something back, because my belief is if we don't say anything back, they win. Christian supremacy continues to win in this country.
Well, look, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. That's such an old saying. And it's absolutely true. You know, if we sit back and just say, well, let's don't say nothing, let's don't do nothing, you're going to get the politicians who come up who want a theocracy, and they're there already. Mike Pence, HUD director, give me his name.
Ben Carson.
Ben Carson. Have
Betsy
you listened?
DeVos.
Yeah, have you listened to these people? They they became politicians in a sense to insert Christianity into our political system.
Remember, you just heard me speak on that.
And so if you think that you can just sit back and go, whatever, you're going to wake up one day, maybe not in our lifetime, but in your child's lifetime and your grandchild's lifetime, when this is all going to be based on, you know, our society is going to be required to be a Christian.
And for example, we've already got Mike Pence saying that his goal is to have Roe v. Wade overturned and abortion criminalized again within, you know, the 8 years of the Trump administration, within these next 6 years. That's his goal. And so we as secular people and atheists, we cannot afford to remain silent and just kind of for fear of offending someone or whatever. They have to hear our voice as well.
Absolutely. So you guys just heard the message I spoke on, which we'll do an Atheist Roundtable soon, on theocratic dominionism and how it's already very prevalent in our government here in the country. And I used a lot of scriptures from the Old and New Testament to try to show people this is true Christianity. It's talking about a physical kingdom of Jesus, they believe, sitting on a throne up in this mountaintop, delivering his command to all people, and Christians will rule and reign in the last days before they go to heaven. So they're trying to do that already. Yeah. So let's end on this. I made a statement on this message. We can work together, I think, with these kind of progressive type liberal Christians on certain things without compromising or being our stance on atheism or respecting their belief in Christianity or the Bible. We can work together with these people as far as political and social issues. So what are your thoughts on that, guys?
Well, I'll start because I have direct experience with this. Before I got into atheist activism, I was a progressive political activist in Wisconsin and Arizona and worked with grassroots groups and various campaigns. And I often worked side by side with progressive Christians. And of course, they weren't like really kind of evangelistic about it, but it would come up every once in a while. Like they'd use the old, Jesus was a liberal kind of argument that I used to believe myself until I kind of thought about it a little more. And I would make clear to them, hey, I don't believe that stuff. I think it's pretty awful. I'm an atheist, because we'd have a chance to talk and socialize on road trips to various, community events and stuff. And we'd have a discussion about it, a disagreement, a debate, if you want to use that word, and talk about it. And I made it very clear to them. I do not respect the Christian belief system, but I respect you as a person. We can still work towards the same goals. Yeah. We have a common enemy that is very important right now, and in our country at least. And I'm more than happy to work together with you. I respect you as people. I just don't respect your beliefs. And a good way to make them not feel insulted I'll tell them, hey, I can tell already your morality is superior to that book. You are better than that. Absolutely. So if anyone is insulting them, it's the book that tells them they're born evil and wicked and deserve to eternal damnation. Yeah. That would be insulting to them. I'm saying you're better than that, and I'm glad that we can work together on these important goals. But I don't buy that religious crap. Yeah,
and by working with them on those political goals, as long as it's the right politician, and the politician's issues are fall in line, correctly, then it's fine. You know what I mean? And we have to, because we are a small minority, So if we're going, and I mean, I know maybe in Congress I think maybe there's one atheist that someone just came out identifies
as
atheist. But other than that, there's none. There's even some states, I think there's 6 states that have laws that you cannot hold office if you're atheist. they are supposedly not ever enforced or whatever. But that's just my point, is that we've got to work with, the groups that are much more liberal and have our same views that, we hold, that are in line with atheism, separation of church and state, equality for all,
right.
LGBTQ rights, all those things. Yeah, we can work with those people in the political system. I don't know that atheism is about politics only. It's not. It's not at all. So we can and we need to work with them. We need to identify those politicians and then the people that are promoting those politicians, and we need to. And I have even recently myself done that. So.
And this reminds me to bring up the kind of like, not reverse, but another aspect of that point is that as atheist activists, we're also, some atheists may disagree, but even though I'm a politically progressive person, I welcome conservative atheists or libertarian atheists. I would be happy to work with them on atheist issues. I disagree with them strongly on other political issues. That's fine, but I don't demonize them. I don't think they're horrible people who filled with hate or anything. I'll work with so it goes both ways.
Yeah.
So I would welcome atheists who have a conservative political bent as well to work together with them on those areas where we do agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's real important to find areas, especially if we want to keep the unity in the community. I think it's very important that we try to establish unity in the secular community. We're always going to have that nuance. And
well, I mean, a big part of the huge part of atheism is secularism. Secularism, keeping church and state separate. And so those, those Christian, organizations that are also believe in secularism, absolutely. I'm with them. Let me help you. What I mean? Let's do that. Let's keep that out. What can I do to help? But that doesn't mean that I am buying into your Christian beliefs. It doesn't mean I think your Christian beliefs are good or right. And I think that maybe you should re-examine your Christian beliefs because the Bible says nothing about secularism. And it doesn't want secularism.
Zero democracy.
Exactly. It wants to force it on people, and so, but that's a whole nother subject. But
yeah. We
should work with them, and we need to work with them.
Yeah, and we're gonna. I'm gonna do a message on what is liberal progressive Christianity. Come on, and it's gonna be one of those hardcore messages. And then Andrew, you got to be on that one for.
I want to be there for that roundtable because
I've been doing this with this guy for 4 years now, and we have fun going into liberal progressive churches. And Andrew's a former. You did a lot of activism. Up north,
and I love watching progressive Christians watching them sweat, trying to twist themselves into pretzels, trying to rationalize that.
Let's save this for our message because we got a lot to talk about on that matter. So, guys, I think we'll close it up. Any other remarks, comments you want to make on atheist accommodationism?
Just don't do it.
Hey, I like
exactly.
That. I like
don't
that.
do it.
We're against atheist accommodation.
Yeah, don't do it. And when you see, people who are out there doing atheist activism, support them. You know what I mean?
Thank you for saying
support
that.
the atheist activists.
Yes.
Maybe we should ask for tithes and offerings. What do you think? Pass the offering plate around. Oh, that's a joke, guys.
Okay, thanks
that's
for clarifying that.
Yeah. All right, well, let's wrap this up. So thanks a lot for watching the Atheist Roundtable. Have a wonderful day.
Goodbye.